Let's start with the National Guard in D.C. and the numerous other things that are taking place.
Weapons on patrol in Washington, D.C. The move marking a major escalation in President Trump's federal takeover of policing in the nation's capital. And now he is threatening to deploy the troops to more American cities. And
why are they showing these assless ass National Guard troops, by the way? That's crazy. Yo, the National Guard have a serious problem with a lack of ass. What's going on, man? Open up the bakeries, man. Oh my Lord, they got no ass. That's what they're showing here. I know, like, technically this is supposed to show that they have like their service weapons now on patrol, which is crazy, by the way, because what are they gonna do? Start killing people? That's insane. But like, the real takeaway here is that they got no ass, bro. No ass, no cheeks. Hank Hill, pancake butt. The National Guard needs to start lifting, start squatting, brother. Oh my God.
States run by Democrats, including Baltimore, despite statistics from the mayor's office showing a 17% drop in violent crime from last year. The president has now fired back at Governor Wes Moore of Maryland, who invited him to Baltimore for a public safety walk. Trump responded by saying Moore needed to clean up the city's, quote, crime disaster before he would go for a walk there. The president.
Yeah, I think when he says stuff like that, you know what he's saying, right? Because like, there are obviously many American cities that have fairly high crime rates, but like, it's still relatively safe. But there is one thing that I am noticing that Trump is actively targeting. I don't know if it's a chicken or the egg situation, but like, I don't know if it's a you know, a larger percentage of black population cities that are more diverse, that end up sometimes having black mayors or black politicians, and that is what causes Trump to hate on these places. Or I don't know. It just kind of feels like every place that he's going after has like a black politician involved. Chicago, DC, Baltimore, state of Maryland. Just something I've noticed. I don't know what that's about. You know, I don't know what that's about. I don't know what that's about. Now, people might say, Hasan, how dare you? How dare you say this? It's because these cities just happen to have a lot of crime. And it's like, okay, but the solution to that is also not necessarily a military presence. Like, that's not going to fix anything. That's going to make things worse, if anything. Like, who the wants to live under a military dictatorship all the goddamn time? That sucks. And secondly, he's not going after red areas that also have high crime rates. It's just weirdly enough. It's just something I've noticed, you know? But once again, it's not the solution anyway. The solution is not like a military presence. I'm not saying like roll the troops into Mississippi, okay?
But this is a significant escalation from when the president first ordered this emergency.
I love that the media's automatic role is to like normalize everything, even if it's just like an objectively abnormal situation, right? Like, this is just not a good thing that Trump is doing. It's very clear that this is motivated by a move in the direction of like having a permanent military occupation in places that he doesn't like. Maybe he doesn't like them because there's a lot of black people there. Maybe he doesn't like it because there's a lot of, you know, blue politicians there or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just like, he doesn't like a certain neighborhood. He doesn't like a certain city. He's sending the military there. That is objectively an insane thing to do. That is an insane thing to do in America, especially, right? Given the way that CNN approaches everything, the way that like mainstream media approaches everything, they have to like kind of find a way around it to basically normalize it. And I just don't understand how you can do that. You know what I mean? Like, this is, you know, this is the imperial boomerang. This is colonialism and fascism turning inward now. And these people seemingly are looking to make that at least feel more normal than it should.
You said Chicago might be next. Are you making, have there been concrete steps that the administration is taking to do that? Or what are other cities as well?
What could be a solution to crime? Great question. This has been something that thinkers have gotten together and tried to find solutions to since the ancient times, okay? From ancient Greece onwards, the answer has always been the same. Solve poverty and you solve crime. That's it. Just as Americans and their inability, the American government's inability to address any of these problems, and then their solutions are always just like to basically make the problems worse. With the conversation around crime, the solutions are identical. They are basically doing the just one more lane on the highway and we will fix this traffic issue please, one more lane, but in terms of addressing the crime. The real solution to lowering traffic density, as we all know, is not more lanes on a highway. It's actually public transit, okay? Making a less car-reliant infrastructure would be the perfect solution to the traffic density problem. But we don't do that, and we just keep adding lanes onto the highway, but you still get bottlenecked when you enter the city. That's just how it works. And the same principle applies to every single thing that these guys are seemingly trying to solve. If militancy was actually an adequate solution to crime, then America would be crime-free. We have the most militant police force on the planet. Nothing comes near the militancy and the militarization of our domestic police force. This is before we even talk about utilizing the military. But I like my cars, the only freedom we have at this point. This is what I mean. It's like, no, true freedom is not having to sit in traffic. True freedom is actually being able to have a much more affordable alternative to having a car. You can still have a car if you want to, but like real freedom would be the freedom to have a diversity in transport options as opposed to just simply being in your car. But Americans just do not comprehend that at all because it's been sold to you. This has been sold to you since birth that like cars equate to freedom. But anyway, that's just one aspect of this. Here, give me any problem that has a major impact on American day-to-day existence, and I will show you that they do the same every single time. Gun violence, school shootings, okay? The solution is simple. Gun control is the most effective means to at least cut down some of the gun violence. And yet, no one wants to do that. So we constantly look for other alternative reasons. Okay? We're like, oh, door control. You need more guns. We need to give the teachers guns. Okay? It's so stupid. You're not solving the problem. You're making the problem worse. I already gave you the example of just one more lane on the highway for traffic density. Same with healthcare. Solution to healthcare is to take out the profit incentive from healthcare. It should be free. It's free in many other countries, in almost every single country. Every country that has decent governance has realized that this is the bare minimum thing that they need to do. In America, we don't do that. And we're like, no, you don't understand. We need to let the free enterprise thrive even more, and then it'll automatically solve itself. Nope, it hasn't. Why would you think that doing the same thing over and over again and leaning into the private enterprise aspect of it is going to actually solve this problem? And the same goes for crime. The only solution to crime is the eradication of poverty, because that is where crime manifests. Crime manifests as a byproduct of people's material conditions. Crime increases when people are poor, when they feel as though they have no alternatives. Americans who already have, the American government is already like pretty ruthless in terms of dealing with crime, have refused to reckon with this problem. They just say, nah, actually, it'll be different this time. It's not about the best mechanism to solve crime is more deterrence, more violence, more punitive measures. And if that was the case, we'd be crime-free already, as opposed to like all these other countries. But all these other countries have significantly lower crime rates than we do. All these other countries have significantly lower recidivism rates than we do, the likelihood to reoffend, right? Once someone is in jail, and that's directly a consequence of the way our prison structure works, our prison system works, is so ruthless and so violent that you become like a better criminal. You become like, you are pushed into being a more rugged criminal once you go to prison, as opposed to like rehabilitate and reintegrate into society. It all stems back to the like insane concept that we have. It's the profit motive. We have private prisons in this country, which is abhorrent, morally repugnant, obviously. But then also on top of that, it's the lack of interest in solving any of these real problems, because someone can make more money off of not solving these problems.
So as you heard him say there, that they haven't made concrete steps yet. He hadn't talked to Chicago's mayor yet about this, though he went on to criticize him, but that when they're ready, they'll be sending them. He also brought up New York as a potential other city. And as you mentioned, John, keep an eye on Baltimore.
Why do you think people in high crime neighborhoods want more police? Because they also believe the same that everyone believes. They believe the same that your unks in the suburbs believe. The false notion that like more police presence is actually actively solving crimes or is like an active deterrent. Also, these underserved neighborhoods oftentimes do have a ton of police presence, but they're just not doing the normal function of policing. And that is precisely the reason why they think, oh, if there were more cops, maybe they would actually solve these problems. When in fact, a big problem with policing is that they're just not doing their jobs. That's the issue. I'm not saying no police. I'm saying do your job. Okay? Do your job. Do your job. The theoretical job of a police force, whether it's a democratic design or not, is supposed to be to protect and serve the citizens, protect and serve the public. But policing, historically and in contemporary American society, simply protects and serves capital, the interests of capital. That's all they do. Their active response time to incidents in rich white neighborhoods is far better than their active response time in black neighborhoods, in poor neighborhoods in general. That's the reason why a lot of people that live in areas where there are higher rates of crime think like, oh, if we had more cops, maybe they would like actually come faster.
Well, John, let's talk about Chicago, because Illinois' attorney general says the state is going to prepare a legal challenge if President Trump follows through on plans to send the National Guard to Chicago. Now, the president's push comes as Chicago city leaders say there has been a significant drop in crime in the city. Just last month, for example, Chicago police say homicides dropped 35% and shootings dropped 26% compared to the same time last year. I want to bring in CNN's Whitney Wild in Chicago. So, Whitney, how is the city and how are city leaders responding to this possibility?
Omar, given the context that they believe that Chicago represents a success story in the ability to bring down crime, they are shocked but not surprised. I mean, especially because Attorney General Pam Bondi has made clear that cities and states with these so-called sanctuary policies, which limit local law enforcement from working with federal agents to enforce immigration policies.
Also, that has nothing to do with crime. Ironically enough, sanctuary city policies are oftentimes backed by the local police because is a successful way to have undocumented migrant communities collaborate and cooperate with the authorities without fear that they're just going to be like unjustifiably deported for being a witness to a crime. That is the real reason why sanctuary cities were implemented, okay? Or at least one of the reasons why sanctuary cities were implemented. It is so ridiculous that these dudes are trying to bring up the lack of collaboration between federal law enforcement that's mechanism is to violently prosecute civil offenders. Like, imagine you just get like ripped away from your family and sent to a totally separate country for a moving violation. You know what I mean? Like a traffic violation. And I'm not even talking about like DUIs. I'm talking like a tiny offense, because that's what it is to cross the fucking border. That's literally what that is. That's just how it's seen in the legal system. And it shouldn't even be seen as an offense, really, because the best possible way to fix that problem is to document these people, right? So they're basically saying the real issue is that like these criminal scum, you know, that work every single day to make your lives better for pennies on the dollar, those are the real rugged criminals, okay? And they must be violently seized and kidnapped by masked armed thugs of the state and ripped away from their families. And if we don't do that, then, you know, crime is out of control. I think many Americans still don't fully comprehend this issue, and I can't even necessarily fault them for their clear lack of humanity, like their clear lack of recognition for the humanity of undocumented migrants, because like there's not that many people out there convincingly speaking on this issue, convincingly speaking on the humanity of migrants in the way that I try to do every single day. And without any sort of counter messaging coming from the left flank here, there's just not going to be any real momentum, real initiative until it becomes too late.
This morning, more than 2,200 National Guard troops in the nation's capital, now armed. Many seen overnight carrying service-issue pistols, others armed with M4 rifles. All part of what President Trump is calling a crackdown on crime in...
Yeah, we already have the most heavily militarized police force in the nation. So I'm glad that we just, you know, cut out the middleman, I guess, or not even the middleman. We're just making it literally the military. Not in the nation, in the world, sorry.
Washington, D.C. This despite violent crime in the district falling to a 30-year low, down 26% since last year. And now a U.S. official telling ABC News planning is underway to potentially duplicate Trump's mobilization in D.C. and send troops into Chicago. No official deployment has been ordered, and the Department of Defense declined to speculate on future operations. But Trump suggesting just days ago he could expand his focus from D.C. to other Democratic-run cities.
How do people not understand how insane this is? Like, I genuinely don't get it. I don't know how people are just like sleepwalking as like we are becoming more and more directly and overtly fascist. This is the implementation of martial law without the actual, fake psyop, fake incident that happened to justify martial law. We're using the military for domestic policing. How is this not frustrating or terrifying for the average American? I do not understand. The Reichstag fire here was big balls. Isn't that crazy?
So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with New York.
A spokesperson for New York Governor Kathy Hochul telling ABC News Trump's attempts to invoke military power undermines work being done in her state that has already brought down crime. And Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker blasting Trump's threat, saying the president is attempting to manufacture a crisis. Chicago's mayor pointing out homicides, shootings, and robberies are all down since last year.
The city of Chicago does not need a military occupation.
The president also setting his sights on another Democratic governor, Maryland's Wes Moore, after Moore touted violence falling in Baltimore and told the president, quote, "If you are not willing to walk our communities, keep our name out of your mouth." Trump lashing out, writing, "If Wes Moore needs help, I will send in the troops," which is being done in nearby D.C. and quickly clean up the crime. But this year, Baltimore is also seeing a double-digit decrease.
I mean, I think it still loops back. I hate to be a broken record on this, but I think this still loops back to white supremacy, right? What I mean by this is like immigrants are black and brown in the minds of like many Americans. So you can kind of turn a blind eye to like over-policing in those communities, no matter how unconstitutional or ridiculous it is, without ever actually having to care about their humanity or their contributions to American society and American existence and the social fabric that keeps everything together. And the same goes for black neighborhoods and black cities in general, where it's just like this, the assessment from like regular Americans from all different backgrounds is that like higher percentage black cities and higher percentage black neighborhoods are just like scary and filled to the brim with crime. And therefore you just have to be violent and brutal to these people. And, if you use the military like this, then it's still good. They don't even think about it like, bro, that's your city too. You know what I mean? They don't comprehend it because they just think, oh, it won't happen in my city. There's not a lot of black people here, so it's fine.
Now, President Trump has more power over D.C. because it's a federal district than he does anywhere else. In other states, it's the governor that is typically in control of the National Guard. Remember, California is still suing the Trump administration after the...
Can you say something good about America? The American state? No. But Americans, I do believe in. I place an endless amount of confidence in my community, in my neighbors, in Americans living all around the country, okay? I believe that eventually they will wake up to this design. They will wake up to the realities. That's why I do what I do. That's the reason why I talk about these issues. The reason why I talk about all of the shortcomings of the American state or the deliberate attempts to like worsen people's conditions is because I still have perhaps this naive belief, perhaps this misguided belief that Americans, if they listen to it, they listen to what I have to say charitably, they will wake up to the realities. They will wake up to the design of the systems of enforcement. And instead of existing in this weird space where they have all of this unlimited animosity towards marginalized groups, because that's who these people in power are shifting their attentions over to, they will actually recognize it is those within the system. It is those who actually hold the levers of control, hold the levers of power in this country that is making their conditions worse. All right.